Undercover Lawyer. Welcome to my second video about age discrimination. This one focusing on age discrimination in company layoffs. These days, tons of companies are going through layoffs, and that is one of the prime ways that employers will move out people because of their age. As an employment lawyer who works during the day on the defense side, I always advise companies that the only safe way to conduct a layoff is to follow this simple rule: last hired, first fired. You've probably heard it before. Lots of defense attorneys give this advice, and they love it as a way of selecting employees for layoff because it's completely objective. There's no way for discriminatory motives and biases to creep into the system that's based solely on dates of hire. Totally objective. But the companies use last hired, first fired? Usually not. Or they try to weasel in some other factors so that they can get rid of the employees they want to get rid of. Sometimes cuts are spread amongst various departments. A new worker in a crucial department keeps her job, while a longtime employee in an expendable department loses his job. Or take Starbucks, for example, who went through a round of layoffs during our down economy. They closed over 600 stores. All the employees at each of the 600 stores should get a pink slip. But the CEO, Howard Schultz, has said it will try to find work at its other stores for as many of these employees as possible. That's where Starbucks and other companies usually don't follow the last hired, first fired. Will the longest serving employees get the other jobs in other stores? Probably not. Here's what's going to happen. The job performance or the tenure of the employee is not really how they get their job at the new store. What happens is managers at new stores just hire who they like, and people tend to hire people who remind them of themselves. In other words, if you're doing some hiring, you're most likely to hire someone who reminds you of the person you like best, you. The corollary is that people do not hire or retain employees who do not remind them of themselves. So, if the reason that an employee does not remind the hiring manager of themselves has to do with a protected class, such as the employee is of a different age, different race, is disabled, different gender, the main way they show this is through the suspicious timing of employee discipline. Now, Boeing had an employee who learned this lesson the hard way in a real case that serves as an excellent example. Now, this is a real lawsuit. A woman named Eileen McKee worked at Boeing for 30 years, but she didn't retire. Even with all that seniority, she was laid off. Here's what happened. Boeing announced that it would be laying off employees from many different departments. Eileen worked in the human resources related department with other younger employees and one manager. Eileen wasn't nervous about the layoffs because she had more seniority, 30 years, and also had a history of positive appraisals. At the same time Boeing announced the layoffs, the company also announced that it would use a new employee rating system to compare employees in comparable positions. The new system labeled Eileen and her coworker as comparable, even though their job duties didn't overlap. Her coworker was also female, but was 36 years old. Using the new rating system, Eileen's manager gave Eileen a score of 17 and her younger coworker a score of 39. So what happened? Who did Boeing lay off? Eileen. They retained the younger, less experienced coworker. So Eileen immediately filed a state law age discrimination claim, but she lost. However, she didn't give up. She filed an age discrimination lawsuit in federal court under the Age Discrimination Eileen defeated score of 17 on the new rating system. Less than a year before she got her poor rating, Eileen's same manager gave her a glowing performance appraisal. Suspiciously, the area in the glowing appraisal where Eileen scored the highest was at first included in the new rating system, but was then removed, so her total rating would be lower. Now, it was strange enough that the judge ruled that a jury could conclude that this change was done in order to give Eileen, the older worker, a lower score. The name of that case is Cotter, C-O-T-T-E-R, versus Boeing Company. You can come to my site if you want a link to it. So here's my takeaway tips for this video. 1. Be highly suspicious of any sudden change in your evaluations or in the evaluation system. If the sudden change appears like a calculated plan to get rid of people, performance ratings suddenly go down, then it's very likely the case. A duck is a duck. 2. Push hard to keep your appraisals at least satisfactory. Many, if not most companies, use a 1 to 5 rating scale where 5 is excellent and 1 is a complete failure to meet expectations, and a 3 means satisfactory. Now, your manager may be aware in their mind that 3 out of 5 is very bad, but you don't really care what your manager thinks in their mind. What you think is what's objective in court. What is a jury going to think a 3 satisfactory means? It means satisfactory, good enough, competent, acceptable. So if you can keep your reviews at least at a 3, then it will be much more difficult for your employer to claim that your performance was the, quote, real reason you were demoted or laid off. And you'll be well on your way to defeating a false case against you and proving your age discrimination claim. That's my final 2 tips for this video on age discrimination in layoffs. If you liked it, I hope you'll come check out our site, undercoverlawyer.com.